The Hungaroring in Hungary, 4.4 kilometers, 2.7 miles, and 16 turns, hosting the third round of the Winter Series here this afternoon at Formula SimRacing. Very, very delightful to have all you viewers on board today. And back once again with James Sadler alongside me in the commentary booth. Welcome, James, and it's good to have you back. It was a very thrilling second round, and it was Kuba Brzezinski who proved he had what it took to have a faultless race under excruciating pressure from top-class World Championship drivers. So he now leads the championship and hope to extend his lead today, and it will be a very tough ask once again with drivers such as Patrick De Witt and Jim Paresis putting the pressure on.
Yeah, thank you, Jonny, for the very warm welcome. And indeed, it was a very good race at round 2 at Barcelona, where F1 is currently testing. But, you know, looking forward to this race at the Hungary. It's located in Budapest, really fantastic track, and Kuba Brzezinski showing that he's got some great pace in this practice. I apologise for not being here. Last round I had a cold, so. But anyway, we're back, and I'm looking forward to this broadcast with our very own Jonny Simon.
Yep, definitely. Kuba Brzezinski, 9 laps through, and he's set a 1 minute 26.5. He's very content with that time. It's only, I think, the warm-up session before qualifying, so not the official warm-up, just some practice here. And we look at the track itself. It opened in 1996, hosting its first Formula 1 Grand Prix at the same year. Now, the drivers are about 8 seconds off the pace, or about almost 10 seconds off the pace, actually, from the times in the 1992 Classic Series. So we have a 28-lap race for you later this afternoon. It's around 120 kilometers, 40 minutes, as per usual each round of this 4-round series. The final round will be next week, and stay tuned for that. For today, obviously, we need to concentrate on the third round, and we look at the pressure for Kuba. James, he's won the 1992 series. Is there any pressure for him in this series to perform? Do you think there's no real expectation for him? It's all just for fun.
I think there's no real expectation for Kuba, because he's shown that he's got the pace in the 1992 series and in this series. So it's all just a little bit of fun, but he just needs to go and enjoy himself. But Alari, he's back there. He's back up at the top with 126.6, but we're now going to go and head into the qualifying session, and hopefully this is going to be a good qualifying session, and we'll run board with a couple of drivers and see how to get a good lap around this Hungary.
Certainly, and Sam Jones is our cameraman today and broadcasting for us, so thanks to him once again for sorting everything out in the broadcast booth here today, as Q qualifying is coming up next, and it will be split into 2 groups of 9 drivers this afternoon. We look at new drivers. We have Blair Disley in there, a classic and a veteran of the World Championship racing here at FSR, and looking at Goran Assad, who is a new driver we haven't seen throughout this series, or at least throughout FSR, and we think for them currently their times aren't so competitive, but I mean, it is only the warm-up or the practice session, so plenty of chance to showcase their abilities in the upcoming qualifying sessions.
Yeah, indeed, and Blair is a good driver. He's just he hasn't really driven this mod much, but he's going to get used to it, and he will definitely get faster, I'm sure, as either this qualifying session or this practice session, or even the race progresses. But yeah, we're now heading into this qualifying session, where the drivers will be split into 2 groups of 9, I believe. And we've got, in the first group, we'll have Kuba Brzezinski, Pastor Sturgis, Jim Paresis, Guillermo Prieto, George Winter, Philip Koenig, Martin Bulgen, David O'Reilly, and Timu Valkyari will take us in Group 1. And we've actually got David O'Reilly is going out first. I just want to say, hopefully you guys that are watching the broadcast at the moment are enjoying the new overlay on the broadcast designed by Sam Jones, so great effort from him for that. But now, as all the drivers head out now, and we'll wait for a hot lap from Kuba Brzezinski or even Jurgis.
Yeah, David O'Reilly, first man out on track. Right behind him, he lets through Pashless Jurgis, who's already screaming towards turn 3, and we look at the track while the drivers set their sights on a very clean out lap to warm the tyres up. And the track, I mean, it's a very thoughtful game of chess to get it right. I mean, to play overtakes to perfection, I mean, to get your nose in front of battling drivers. And as we go through turn 5 of the circuit, or turn 4 of the circuit, and then 5, 6, it's very tight and twisty. And then you have that 6, 7 chicane that Kuba Brzezinski is setting his sights on now, as well as Pashalis Jurgis. I mean, it's not built for overtaking, is it, this circuit? So it's going to prove to be extra tight today, and you have to be extra perfect to get that overtaking maneuver right.
Yeah, indeed, and also I think you've got to take into consideration with setup as well, getting the right wing levels. Well, you can't really change the rear wing, but you can change the front wing, but obviously that's going to affect your top speed with the aero drag. But I think let's go on board with Kuba. You know, he's been looking really strong throughout the weekend. He's been showing some fantastic pace, so let's go on board with Kuba. He's now entering this lap, this hot lap in this qualifying session. So Kuba Brzezinski gets a decent exit out of the final corner, heading down the pit straight. DRS open, pits on your right hand side, and now he will see that 100 meter board and he'll brake just after it. He's picked his spot well. Kuba hugs the apex nicely, gets on the power line nicely through turn 1. Now heading towards turn 2, needs to brake just before the 50 meter board, gets that car perfectly braked, and now going through turn 3 and now heading down to turn 4. What was his first sector? It's a 30.5, so decent first sector from Kuba there. Going around turn 5 now, gets over the curve there, but still pretty good by Kuba. Going through turn 6 and then 7, gets a little bit of oversteer on the exit of 7, now into 8 and then 9. Pretty good by Kuba, missed the apex slightly through turn 8, now going up towards turn 9 and then 10, brakes down into 4th and then back up into 5th, brakes down now into turn 12, sorry, now gets a good exit on turn 12, now going around turn 13, important you hug the apex of this corner and then get on the power early, use all the track. Kuba doing a fantastic job. Going into turn 14, taking the shortest line to the finish line. What time will this be for Kuba Brzezinski? Is it going to be fastest? No, it's not, but still good lap from Kuba.
1 minute 26.6. Pashalis Jurgis was on a faster lap than Kuba actually, and he butchered it into the run down to the downhill turn 12. So Kuba is currently in P1. Guillermo Prieto sets a 1 minute 27.1. He takes P2 at the moment. Jim Paresis in third, 1 minute 27.3. And then way far back is Timu Valkyar with a 29.4 and Martin Borgen a 30.1. But Philip Koenig just jumps into P5 with a 29.6. So you have the top 3 drivers very tight between them, 7 tenths, and then the next 3, another 6 tenths between those from 4th to 6th. And now we still wait for Pashalis Jurgis, George Winter, and David O'Reilly there. I think I had a bit of a technical issue, but we're all good at the moment.
Definitely some lag there.
Yeah, so we I'm having a look at who is on a lap at the moment. David O'Reilly is currently on an out lap. We look for Pashalis Jurgis, also on an out lap, as well as George Winter, who's not on an out lap, but he goes into P4, 1.3 seconds off the pace from Kuba Brzezinski. So at the moment, it looks like Kuba has, or at least for now, won the battle for P1 in Group 1, but it's still early days, 5.5 minutes to go. So his aim is to set a very strong time so that the guys in Group 2, because we know it's such a strong Group 2 there with Ilari Alstrius and Pat David James, they can certainly put the pressure on Kuba for P1 for pole.
Yeah, indeed they can. They've all got some fantastic pace, and Prieto was on a very good 2:10 quicker than his personal best, so hopefully he can improve and take the fight to Kuba. But definitely, we are missing quite a few drivers here. I don't think we've got David Greco here, nor have we got some other drivers, including Michi Hoyer, so we won't get them lightning starts, what we saw in both this series and in the 1992 series. But definitely, the drivers are looking pretty strong, and in fact, as I say that, Kuba Brzezinski doing a pretty good job at the moment. He's on a lap. He's going through turn 3, now heading up to turn 4. This will be the end of the first sector. What time will this be? He's slightly up, 0.02 of a second up on his previous time. He's going through turn 5, gets a good exit on turn 5 now, heading up to 6 and 7. He doesn't want to hit them anti-cuts because that will throw the car off the track. Go through turn 8 and then gets it cut back nicely for turn 9. Going through turn 10. Flat out corner, then we'll break down. Gets the car really nicely close to the apex. Now heading down to turn 12. And breaks down to second gear, gets on the apex, gets on the power nicely. He's a 10th up on his personal best lap time, so it's looking like a good lap from Cuba at the moment. Goes through turn 13. Now heading up to turn 14, a little bit wide. He's not right on the edge of the track, but now he's got his DRS open. He's gone 2/10 quicker, so great job from Cuba there.
Great job from Kuba Brzezinski's. I think Guillermo Prieto went on a 2-lap stint on his first run. He's now half a second behind Kuba Brzezinski. He has to push even more. Guillermo Prieto on a hot lap right now. He's just began. He's on his run, or on the run down to turn 2 at the Hungary ring, and then downhill once again. It's a very small drop into turn 3. The rear end gets unsettled, and we know fixed setup. Everyone has to deal with that this afternoon. He heads to the first sector. A 30.616 is slower than his fastest lap. But Guillermo Prieto seems to find the rhythm, James, on the second lap of his qualifying stint. And that could prove crucial because at the moment, his first sector is faster than the first sector of his first lap last time around. So if he keeps this rhythm going, he could be faster on his second lap. And it seems the track has rubbered up quite significantly since then.
Yeah, indeed. And Pietro is a very good driver. I think he drives faster than the speed, if I'm correct. But he's just 1,000th of a second slower than his previous lap. He's got it all to do in this final sector. He's got about 2/10 to find. So can he pull something magical out the bag? Gets on the exit, unsettles the car a little bit. He's now going around the final corner. I have to say, gets closer to the edge of the track through the final corner and goes a 10th quicker than his personal best lap, and 3/10 slower than Cuba. And we'll answer some questions in the YouTube chat after this first group has done their qualifying session.
Certainly will. Remember to use hashtag AskCommentator if you wish to ask any questions. Guillermo Prieto on a rapid lap at the moment. I think he could challenge Cuba for pole at the moment. Cuba, though, on an outlap will have one flying lap to beat, or at least maintain his lead. Right now, Guillermo Prieto is faster than his first lap of this stint, but he's not faster than his personal best first sector. We'll see how he travels through turn 6 and 7. The very tricky chicane. Doesn't touch the anti-cuts. Very smooth through there. Almost gets loose on the exit. But the lines so far for him are extra smooth. And that's what you need. We talked about it before. But lots of wheel spin on the exit there of turn 9. Not going to help his lap time at all. The very rapid turn 11. And then on the run down, the downhill braking zone for turn 12. Brakes at the 50-meter board. Turns the car into the corner. Uses as much curb on the exit. And now he's just going to finish this lap. As his heart is beating, oh, and that's what happens when your heart beats. You lose control, you lose that muscle memory. He was on for a personal best lap there, and unfortunately, James, I think that could have beaten Cooper for pole. He was on par to match at least Cooper's time for pole, and now he'll have to settle for P2, and we know how strong he is for the race anyway. So I think Guillermo shouldn't be too disappointed about that, but what could have been is, I think actually I'll change my thoughts on that. He's probably going to be very disappointed. He could have been on pole for Group 1.
Yeah, he was looking pretty good. It was just unfortunate for Prieto, but he'll do well in the race, I'm sure. But let's have a look at Jim Paresis at the moment. He is 2/10 quicker than his personal best lap. Clearly the track is rubbering in quite a bit. He's now going through turn 11. And he's 3/10 off Cuba, so it just shows what a fantastic lap Cuba has done. Gets the car really nicely slowed down, and now heading through turn 13. He wants to make sure he doesn't make the same mistake what Prieto made, but of course he won't. He's an experienced World Championship driver, and it's looking like a pretty good job from Jim Paresis. Well, let's put him on the grid. And it's only a 10th quicker, and he finishes P3. I don't think anyone is on a faster lap. In fact, George Winter is. And Jonny, do you want to take us through a lap with George?
Yeah, coming through turn 6 and 7, the very tight chicane. George Winter on his personal best lap at the moment, and I think he could improve. I mean, he's 8/10 of a second off pole. He could jump a few positions here with a very strong lap. So we wait through the middle sector now as he heads through the fast and flowing turn 11. Runs very wide, but this lap could indeed improve by a tenth or two, and he could jump up. Patulus Sturgis or Jim Paresis could jump in front of them on the grid. He's got to nail these final couple of corners here. He does not do that. The car gets very loose and he pulls into the pits. So that's his qualifying session over, and we will round out our top 9, obviously, because there's only 9 drivers in Group 1. Kuba Brzezinski currently on pole, a 1 minute 26.363, which is the time that Group 2 will aim for. That's what their benchmark is. Guillermo Prieto in P2, what could have been on pole, as Kuba Brzezinski actually did improve on that 1 minute 26.363. So that was very good from him. Jim Priest is 3rd, Pascal Sturgis 4th, George Winter 5th. Then it's Timu Valkiavi, Philip Koenig, Martin Bolgan, and David O'Reilly there for Group 1. Now, Group 2, as Goran Assad heads out of his garage and waits at the end of the pit lane for those red lights to turn green. And in this group, James, we know Alari set pole position in round 1. Can he do it again for round 2?
It'll be a fantastic job for if Alari manages to do that. And Hungary definitely can show some pace of some really good drivers, but he's got a 126.3 to beat with Kuba Brzezinski. But while these guys are on an outlap, let's ask some questions, or a question in the YouTube comments. We've got a comment from Radical Racing using hashtag Ask the Commentator. Who do you think will win this race, and who do you want to win? I'll go first. I think Kuba looking really strong here, but so is Larry, so we'll have to see what he can do. I think it's best not to favourite a driver, although there are some really nice guys in Larry and Cuba and David even. I think it's best to not favourite a driver. What's your take on this, Jonny?
Yeah, I mean, rule number 1 of commentating is to not show any bias, so I think that explains that. But for this afternoon, whoever sets pole position should be the man to win the race, as long as they can take care of their tyres. We know that's an element of winning a Winter Series race. No pit stops we're expecting. We'll talk about that later in the warm-up, as we have 8 minutes and 45 seconds remaining of this 10-minute qualifying session for Group 2 here with the FSR Winter Series for round 3. Patrick DeWitt is currently into the final. Is that the final corner? Yes, it is. And he will. That front end is dialed in fairly well, but he begins his lap nonetheless, James. And now, towards turn 1, it's a downhill braking zone. There's so many of these on the track. It really is, or it really adds that extra bit of element to the drivers, how you have to brake slightly early for some corners, and then when it comes to uphill braking zones, you can brake very, very deep. So I mean, you really have to get your mind concentrated for the different types and different characteristics of corners.
Yeah, indeed you do, and I've noticed the style of Patrick DeWitt, where he doesn't take the widest line, he goes for a more direct line. Pretty good job for it, pretty aggressive. We saw 30.6 in the first sector, which is pretty good from the Dutch driver. Now heading through turn 6 and 7, gets the car hooked up, gets the power on nicely. Now going through turn 8, pretty good from Patrick DeWitt at the moment. Gets close to the curb of turn 9. It is really difficult to do that, especially with this fixed setup, but really good stuff from Patrick DeWitt at the moment. Now heading down into turn 12, rates second gear. Gets on the power a little bit late, but still nice from Patrick DeWitt. Now going through turn 13, there's a little bump on the exit of turn 13 that can sometimes unsettle the car, but now goes through turn 14, gets all over the curb, but that's okay, and it's a 126.7, so he's got some more time to find, but as the rubber on the track increases and the fuel loads drop, I'm sure Patrick will find some time and take the fight to Cuba.
Yeah, certainly. He had quite a few lockups, didn't he, Patrick DeWitt, throughout turn 13 and 14, the final corner. Larry Alchbius, 1 minute 27.47, tenths behind Patrick for P1 at the moment. Their aim is a 1 minute 26.363. that Kuba Brzezinski set. At the moment, Sander Kallis, with a 1 minute 27 dead, is in P2. He splits those two drivers. Norbert Lietner, good to see him. I actually didn't mention him before. A new driver to the Winter Series. Currently in P4 on the grid. And then we have Will Barnes and Goran Assad behind as Eugene Van Logenberg actually jumps into P5. So we wait for Blair Disley and David Cook also to set their lap time soon. We know Blair Disley will probably learn the car and as much as he can throughout these qualifying sessions and practice sessions. A late call up to the Winter Series, so I mean no pressure for him really, all here for fun. As Patrick DeWitt currently on an out lap. We'll wait for him. We were expecting him to go on a 2-lap run, James, but he locked up his tyres way too badly on that first lap.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the tyres on this 3.5 mod. I have to say they're a lot more forgiving than the FSR 2014 and in fact 2015 tyres, because they are based on the 2012 F1 style, because if you recall in F1 in 2012 the tyres were very they did wear a lot, but these tyres are definitely more forgiving and allows Patrick, if he makes some lock ups, they don't wear as much, and you only lose about 2% if you lock up in this car rather than about 5 or 6% in the F1 car. But here we go, Patrick DeWitt and Jonny once again. Joel takes through a lap with Patrick DeWitt.
Certainly, Patrick DeWitt, very good front end. We've talked about it 3-4 times already, and he sets his sights towards turn 1, a downhill braking zone again for this track. He will brake at the 50-meter mark of the track, locks up, but he gets it right, picks it up for the apex. You can get away with lots of lines through turn 1 as long as you get on the throttle early, and then towards turn 2 once again, another corner where you can slightly miss the apex, pick up the throttle, drift the car right, and then quickly pick it up left, right again through the downhill turn 3. You can lose the rear end quite easily through there. The end of the first sector, a 30.561. Absolute rapid lap from Patrick DeWitt. He wants to beat Kuba for pole. And now uphill through towards the turn 6-7. Tight chicane. Don't touch the anti-cuts here. The car, oh, he misses the apex of 6. The car, though, is going to get very unsettled just as it does there on the exit. And then now through 8 and then 9. Clips the apexes very well, uses as much of the track on the exit, maintains speed, the fast and flowing turn 11. This is an absolute wicked lap from Patrick DeWitt. At 29.6, he's currently 2/10 up on his previous lap, but that's not enough. He needs to find another 2/10 to beat Kuba Brzezinski in this final sector. Now, turn 13, pretty much a carbon copy of the final corner. It's just a left-hander, and then the right-hander of the last corner. As we said, carbon copy. Front end sticks very well now, picks up the throttle on the exit, runs wide to maintain and maximize the line. He sets a 1 minute 26.5. Not what he wants. He wants pole position, Patrick DeWitt.
Yeah, indeed he does, and I think he just got too wide in the final sector, and that really compromised his time. Otherwise, if he gets that sorted, perhaps he could find them all-important 2/10 against Kuba Brzezinski. Sander Kallis in P2. Blair Disley has gone up to P5, and pretty good at the moment. And we've actually had Jim Parisi leave the server. Hopefully he can join back. But looking like a pretty good qualifying session, and Norbert Lietner went flying over the curb at turn 4 there, so he's going to have another chance to do a lap. Perhaps he can improve. He's definitely showed some fantastic pace in FSR, especially at Japan in the World Championship where he managed to get into Group 2. So great job for him at Japan. But let's see what he can do in this mod and the Hungary, which we will be attending in the FSR 2015 season. So it's all good practice for all the drivers here that are competing in this Winter Series today.
Norbert Lietner, a guy who also won the second race of the A Series in 2014 at FSR, and that was a race I was in. I finished on the podium. I finished in P3. The sprint race there, I was actually over the moon with the podium. I thought I have so much expectation just to do well, and then I mean, to end up with 4th and 3rd in my first FSR event. I would have loved to win, but I never got one throughout the season. Norbert Lietner, though, he's very strong, very fun to race against, very clean, and he has plenty of racecraft, and I think faster than speed. Certainly know his talents there. That's why they've kept him on board for 2015. Norbert Lietner, currently on an out lap. Actually, no, he is on a flying lap. The second stint of this flying lap. The second flying lap of this stint. I'm pretty sure he heads towards the end of the second sector, and he picks up the throttle. I've completely butchered that, James. He's on an out lap. The timing screen says the first sector's. All right, so then he's on an out lap now with a minute remaining in this session. Patrick De Witt, though, James, he's wanted to set 2 flying laps in a row, and he's made a mistake on that second flying lap twice now. He's not going to get that 2-lap stint. Now he's stuck to that 1-lap stint. He's really going to have to warm up the tyres and get the grip right, especially mentally, get his rhythm right for one quick flying lap. He's got to gain 2 tenths on this next run.
Yeah, indeed, and Cuba set a 1:26.3, so all he has to find is 1/10, if I am correct. But yeah, Patrick has to get into his famous qualifying zone and get into his own De Witt zone, and he's actually 2 tenths off his personal best lap. So I think that could be the heavier fuel load is contributing there as well, and I think it just shows what a great lap he did. And Patrick goes off the track, locked up his rears, and went flying into the wall through turn 6 and 7. So unfortunate for De Witt. Is anyone else going faster? Well, I believe Sander Callis has just started a lap going through turn 1, breaks down just after the 15-meter board and runs wide. I think he just brakes too late going into turn 2. Goes up now, turn 3. Heading up to turn 4. Is this going to be faster? It's 1/10 slower than De Witt. Could Sander Callis, a Pro Series driver, take pole position away from Cuba? And in fact, if he doesn't, get second place off De Witt. This is going to be really interesting. Goes through turn 6 and 7. Hooked up really nicely. Turn 8. And then 9. Gets the cut back nice. Good driving from Sander Callis at the moment. Definitely did well. He joined in Canada in the Pro Series and definitely showed he can compete with some good pro drivers, and he's 4 tenths off Patrick De Witt, so I don't think he is going to take pole position off Cuba or get second place off De Witt. And he just went onto the curb just before turn 13. That unsettled the car. He's now going through turn 14. I don't think this will be faster from Sander Callis, which is really unfortunate, but still good job from him, and we'll have to see. And Alari's not improved. He's only got P3 in this group, and so has Norbert Lietner. Blair's not going faster. I think, if I'm correct, everyone has stopped their laps. I believe this session is over. So yeah, pretty good qualifying session, Johnny.
Yeah, pretty good qualifying session. Checkered flag out. Goran Assad, I don't think, well, he crossed the line after the checkered flag, so this lap will not count, but he's still driving around in the track. Christopher Cobb advances the session, doesn't give Goran any hope to finish that lap, and we see Kuba Brzezinski on pole pretty much, and well, Kuba says he hates waiting after that, but I think he'd be pretty delighted nonetheless that he's starting in P1. Now, James, Kuba said he's not concerned about his poor starts recently, both in the 1992 series as well as these Formula Renault 3.5 cars. But I think today, Patrick De Witt, who's notorious and widely known for his amazing starts, especially at, I think it was Indianapolis this year, or last year, excuse me, in the World Championship, he screamed towards, he jumped about 7 or 8 cars in the first lap. I'm not sure if it was Indianapolis or Monza, I can't remember the exact race, but Patrick De Witt, I mean, it's not over for him. His starts are absolutely incredible, and Kuba has to defend early on that long downhill run to turn 1.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The Flying Dutchman definitely can get some flying starts, and Kuba's weakness, I have to say, it has been the starts in both the 1992 series and in this series, I guess, because he's had Michi Hoyer jump him at the start, and as we've seen, at Magny Course especially, Patrick De Witt got a really good start as well, and definitely we are going to see a good start from both drivers. Hopefully it's a nice clean race. We've got 3 minutes and 55 seconds in this warm-up session, and it's been a thoroughly entertaining start to round 3 at the Hungary ring at the moment. So nice job from all the drivers at the moment, and nice to see some experience and inexperience within this winter series. It gives a good taste for newcomers to FSR and what they can expect and whether their levels match the drivers that are around them. So pretty good stuff so far, it has to be said.
Certainly, and the new TV overlay, well done to all the FSR members behind that. I don't actually have names at the moment to thank, but we look at the left side on your screen and you can see the gaps between drivers there, obviously to 3/10 as usual within Formula 1 and FSR. We use 3/10 here, and well, we hope you enjoy it this afternoon with 3 minutes remaining in this warm-up session. And I think a full tank today should be enough to make the end of the race, according to Will Barnes. He's our expert fuel strategist. And so for warm-up, James, we look at the start of round 1. We had to have a restart there, remember that. It wasn't as worse as last year's Winter Series, which was nice. And we look at round 2, very good start. But then the most important start I want to look at is the 1992 series start around this track at the Hungary ring. 3 wide into the first corner. They had Kuba Brzezinski, Hoyer and Jeroen Kwekel. Are we going to see 3 wide once again today? It depends how much wheel spin the guys on that dirty side of the grid get. It's going to be a big factor this afternoon.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think because I think Chris, who is running this race at the moment, I believe Thomas is on personal commitments. Anyway, I believe he set it at 100% real road, if I'm correct, and he's done that manually in the mod development. Anyway, but yeah, I don't think traction on the dirty side of the track will be an issue for the drivers here, but we'll have to see. But of course you want to see a fair advantage to all the drivers. But hopefully it's going to be a good start, and we'll run through the grid when the formation lap gets under the way. And definitely this series has been a whole nother world compared to last series in the Winter Series, which both me and you did drive in last year, and now we're both commentators together, and it's been really enjoyable for both Magna Course and in the 1992 series and this race so far. So definitely looking forward to doing, hopefully, future broadcasts with you, Johnny.
Certainly, James. Couldn't be any well spoken than that. Thank you very much. It's been a delightful commentating sequence with each other, and that's not exactly the words I was thinking of, but that's just because I'm watching Santa Callis drifting around on his car. Actually, when I watch this at the end of the warm-up session, it's really pushing it with this fuel load. It's going to be very interesting. Blair Disley, interestingly enough, is improving by the minute. I think today, James, and we'll go to him on a formation lap later, he's already set for our man who will make his way through the field, the target man, who will follow throughout the race to make his way up through the field at the moment. 9 rows, 18 drivers, 20 seconds left in warm-up. We wait for Christopher Cobb, our race director, this afternoon to begin proceedings for the formation lap. And 28 lap race, 120 kilometers, 40 minutes, as we mentioned throughout the series. This is the third round of 4. So hopefully everything does go well for the drivers this afternoon. We look at the championship as well, James. Kuba Brzezinski on top from Patrick DeWitt. Jim Priest also had a very strong round 3. His race pace was there. He was able to save those tyres quite well, wasn't he? And now his qualifying pace this round is not good. This track is very similar to Monaco. Very tight, very hard to overtake drivers. Now you're pretty much, Jim Priest is on the back foot already after a poor qualifying session.
Yeah, indeed, and this track's barriers are very close to the actual track, so as you said, it is like Monaco, but it is notorious for not having much overtaking, I think it's fair to say. A bit like Australia was in FSR, especially in the Pro Series, but anyway, we have now finished this warm-up session, the 5 minutes that the drivers have had, to get a feel for the higher fuel loads, and now we will move into the race, and we will have 28 laps, not 70, what we usually have in F1, but it's definitely got the making to be an exciting race, despite not having a full grid of 26 drivers. We've got 18, which is still a decent showing from all the drivers here, and I'm interested to see what Patrick de Witt can do behind Kuba Brzezinski and whether he can get a really good start as we now head into this formation lap and into this race.
Certainly, we begin the formation lap this afternoon, and we'll round out the grid for you here. As we said, 9 rows, 18 drivers. Kuba Brzezinski on pole. Alongside him, Patrick de Witt, our 2 championship leaders at the moment. Guillermo Prieto in third. Very, very strong race pace. He's someone to watch this afternoon to battle for that podium position. Jim Paresis in fourth, alongside him on the second row. On the third row, we have Sander Kallis and Ilari Algepius, our pole position sitter from round 1. Paschalis Georgis, the Greek man, alongside George Winter, a very promising prospect throughout FSR. Norbert Leitner and Blair Disley round out our top 10 on the 5th row. And then we have Timu Valkiavi and a new man, Goran Assad, on the 6th row of the grid. David Cook and Philip Koenig on rows 7. And then we have Philip Koenig and Eugene van Logenberg in 14th and 15th. Martin Morgan in 16th. Will Barnes in 17th. David O'Reilly in 18th there. And we wait to see if there's any drivers starting in the pits. None. We have 18 drivers on the grid. Now, James, we know these cars, the tyres do need to be warmed up quite significantly. They don't have tyre warmers, if I'm not mistaken. And, well, at least not for this round. And, well, I mean, it proves a challenge to the drivers to get it right for the first lap of the race, especially the brakes as well.
Yeah, indeed, they've got to balance heat in the tyres, but they don't want to wear the tyres or lose any tyre wear in tyres. So definitely they've got to balance that out as well with brake wear as well. But nicely rounded out, Jonny, and a very exciting race is ahead of us, hopefully. And just want to talk about pit stops. I doubt there will be any pit stops since it's only 28 laps. And it's only 1 minute and 26 to get around here, so it should be a short but yeah exciting race for all the viewers on the YouTube broadcast to watch.
Certainly will. Thank you once again to all the viewers out here. Now, James, as we head towards the end of the formation lap, we want to see how long Kuba waits on the grid for, and I'll get my stopwatch out of my phone quickly. There we go, I got it. I'm going to time this quite well because it is going to prove crucial to how long those tyres cool down.
Yeah, indeed, and these tyres do cool down quite a bit on this car, so we'll have to see who's warmed up their tyres the best, as both Kuba and Patrick and Prieto all line up in their grid spots, ready for the lights, which you will take us through, Jonny.
Certainly at the moment, Kuba Brzezinski on the grid. I don't think he's going to have to wait for long. It's only about 10 seconds so far as Patrick de Witt realigns himself on the grid. Doesn't get himself in place as well as he'd like. The 5 red lights will light up. The drivers stare at them, and then we have 28 laps of racing. And we go green at the Hungaroring. Patrick de Witt already, an immense start into the slipstream of Kuba Brzezinski. Defends very early as Prieto also heads into the slipstream of those both. Patrick de Witt breaks around the outside of Kuba. Oh, a bit of contact between the two of them. And that allows Guillermo Prieto to get on the power down and almost jump Patrick de Witt. Now he squeezes him to the absolute limit of the track now. Patrick de Witt up the inside of Kuba Brzezinski again cannot do that. Jim Paresis still maintains 4th. Ilari Algepius and Sander Kallis battling for 5th and 6th. George Winter in 7th. Norbert Leitner runs wide in 8th. Hits the wall, and Norbert Leitner, feeds into the back of the pack. And some big damage there for the drivers. The rear end got very loose for him, but we quickly head towards the front of the pack. It's Kuba Brzezinski from Patrick de Witt and Guillermo Prieto.
Yeah, and Paschalis Georgis went off the track at turn 3, so unfortunate for him. But unfortunate contact with Norbert Leitner there. But I was going to say there wasn't much incidents, or there were no incidents at the start initially, but then it all came undone at the exit of turn 3.
It was very close for Dizzy, I think, or it might have been actually the guy in P10, that's David Cook, who's similar cars. I couldn't tell who it was, but Norbert Lima almost hit into the back of them both. This front five is very close at the moment. It's only 2.5 seconds between 5 drivers. As we close to the end of the first lap here of 28, we have Kuba Brzezinski in P1, 0.6 of a second ahead of Patrick de Wit in P2. Now it's 1.1 as they cross the line. Guillermo Prieto half a second behind Patrick de Wit, who could have a lot of damage, James, from that first lap, making lots of contact. Jim Paresis in 4th with 2.2 seconds. Alari Alchpius in 5th. Sander Kaller 6th. George Winter 7th. Pashless Jurgis 8th. Blair Disley 9th, and then David Cook rounds out our top 10 as we have our first 2 retirements already. Norbert Lietner and Eugene van Logenberg on the first lap.
Yeah, unfortunate for both them drivers, and it'll be interesting to see what damage has actually occurred on Patrick de Wit's car, whether he might have some suspension damage, which will ultimately make the car or make his wheel point in not dead centre, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, and also it might affect his tyre wear. But at the moment, Kuba has already got a 1.8 second gap to Patrick de Wit. Kuba is absolutely flying, fantastic stuff from here is Patrick de Wit in second, giving chase to Kuba, but Prieto, if de Wit makes a mistake, Prieto is going to be right on his heels, or in fact take P2. He's looking very racy and looking like a really strong driver in this Winter Series at the moment.
Yeah, Guillermo Prieto always had the potential, and I think his first race was in Monza in the A Series, a race I was in. I remember seeing him on the grid thinking, is this guy going to be as fast as I think he could be? And he's certainly proving that this afternoon. Patrick de Wit, very unsettled throughout the final corner, but he picks up the throttle early. Now I think he's maintaining that gap of about 7/10 now to Guillermo Prieto behind. He's losing Kuba Brzezinski in front. This brings up the element already, James, on lap 2. Is Kuba going to maintain those tyres, or is he going to push early and hope to build a strong lead come the end of the race?
Well, at the moment, since Kuba has got such a big lead at the moment, which is in fact 2.2 seconds, I believe Kuba is actually going for it, and he's trying to get a big gap to Patrick de Wit. I think he knows that Patrick de Wit locks up a lot, and which is his driving style. It's more of a typical rFactor 1 driving style, since he did drive on rFactor 1. He's drove in FSR a number of years, so it's nice to see drivers like Patrick de Wit and even Blair Disley still around after so many years in FSR. But it's a good job from all the drivers at the moment. I believe we haven't got any incidents and not many overtakes, but having said that, Jurgis looked on the inside of George Winter and he tapped the curb and sent the rear of the car flying.
No, Pashless Jurgis is quite aggressive through these early laps. He's all over the place trying to get past George Winter. He's definitely frustrated there in P8. That's going to allow Blair Disley into the pack. And we look at this group now from Patrick de Wit to Blair Disley. It's only 6 seconds between 7 drivers at the moment. That is quite significant. Actually, it's 8 drivers, excuse me. And we look at the gap once again. Patrick de Wit now 1.3 seconds away from Guillermo Prieto, who's dropped back. But 2.3 seconds away from Kuba Brzezinski in the lead. Kuba is on fire once again. Is he going to run away with this lead? We see Front Row Racing watching, keeping an eye on their man for 2015, who, well, we can confirm from GPCOS, whatever you would like to call it, that Kuba will be in the World Championship for 2015. Yeah,
it's great stuff for Kuba. I'm sure he will do well in World Championship for 2015. And Patrick de Wit just ran a little bit wide on the exit of turn 4, but it just shows what a fantastic driver Kuba Brzezinski is. You know, he's 2.7 seconds against Patrick de Wit, and Patrick de Wit is a strong driver. Let's not forget that. So it just shows that Kuba is at the moment in a different world. A bit like what Miranda and Weiss were back in 2012 when FSR was at the Hungary. And Weiss and Miranda just ran away into the distance ahead of the pack. So it's a bit like that at the moment. But it's good stuff at the moment as we are on lap 3, heading into lap 4 now. And Will Barnes has got past Gorgon Assad, and Will Barnes has actually gone up to 12th. What is going on with Will Barnes?
Goran Assad's actually DNF from the race, so I'm not sure what's going on for him, but he becomes our third non-finisher already this afternoon. And so we have 15 drivers remaining on the track at the moment. This big train, this is another racing analogy for you. A trolley train is evolving with Patrick DeWitt leading that proceedings, 3 seconds away from the lead. Between him and Blair Disley, it's 6.2 seconds between 8 drivers. Oh, George Winter almost slides through turn 2, almost loses the car, maintains control. Pashless Georges, the Greek freak at the moment, is putting the pressure on George in front. He is certainly not giving him any room to breathe. Pashless Georges wants to get past. He's being very over aggressive though, James. You'd think that, I mean, he'd want to play it patient. He is, well, evidently faster than George at the moment, but he seems to not be playing the patient game. It needs to be a game of chess around this track to pass someone.
Yeah, indeed, and very nicely put, Jonny. And I think it's just more of a learning game for him. He is a fast driver, and I'm sure he knows that. But he has to wait until either Winter or someone else makes a mistake, because, as we said, the Hungarian isn't notorious for overtaking, so he's just got to be patient. There isn't many overtakes going off at the moment. I think Assad, I think he's disconnected, because I tried to have a look at the replay, and I couldn't find what went wrong with him, and he just wouldn't show me a replay, so perhaps that might be a disconnection, which would be unfortunate for him. But Cuba, 3 seconds away from Patrick DeWitt, and the drivers have now got the RS, so I don't think Prieto will be able to do anything going into turn 2.
Sorry to interrupt you there, James. Pashless Georges at turn 1 spins, and he's now dropped behind. Oh, he's DNF'd as well. He tried to go up the inside of George Winter there on your screens, and he's unfortunately just, he's given up on that. So he becomes our 5th retirement, as Timu Valkiavi also DNF'd with suspension damage. So 13 drivers left in the race at the moment. Big trolley train. David O'Reilly and Will Barnes watching at the moment. Also make contact, battling at turn 1. Will Barnes into the wall. Hopefully that car can get underway. 2 guys battling for the latter part. David O'Reilly around the outside. I'm not sure what happened there. They just, a bit of a racing incident, I think. I think Will Barnes sort of closed the door on David O'Reilly, but he was on the outside, James.
Yeah, I'll just take a look at that, and I'll give you a review.
Certainly will, as the top P2 to P8 now is still 7 seconds, as George Winter has dropped behind the trolley train at the moment, the DeWitt train. Patrick DeWitt V2 we talked about in round 2. He's reinvigorated as a driver, but the pace this afternoon, if Kuba has this pace, what this allows, James, is the fact that he's faster than the rest of the drivers. He can slow down slightly to maintain the tyres, and then that will evidently make him a little more faster. I know it sounds a bit confusing, but because you maintain the grip in the tyres by slowing down, you end up being faster in the long term. So Kuba at the moment could be on the brink of being unstoppable in the Winter Series with 2 rounds remaining.
Yeah, indeed, and he's been looking fantastic. And just some news on the David O'Reilly and Will Barnes incident. Basically, when Will Barnes went into turn 1, he held his line, and then David O'Reilly just got onto the slippery AstroTurf and then knocked Will Barnes' rear wheel. So unfortunate for both drivers, but David O'Reilly is a clean driver, so it was just unlucky on both parties. But now, looking like a pretty good race so far. We've had quite a few DNFs so far, but still got a whole host of quality drivers in this Winter Series still going, with Kuba Brzezinski and Patrick DeWitt looking strong, and it's been a good race so far, definitely.
Certainly has. I'm looking at the gap between Kuba and Patrick DeWitt, 2.6 seconds. We'll wait for it across the line at the moment. Patrick DeWitt pushes the right foot on the throttle, 2.5 seconds. He's gained half a second that lap on Kuba Brzezinski. Did Kuba make a mistake? I think in the middle sector, a 30.7. It wasn't abnormal to the rest of his sectors. It just seemed like it was gradually a slow lap from Kuba. Oh, actually, I'm looking at no, I'm looking at Kuba's time, so that is correct. So Kuba, is he making a mistake? We'll have to watch through the first sector. Is he losing his rhythm? Is his mind getting a bit unsettled as Patrick DeWitt runs onto the grass at the exit of turn 3. Very close, he loses 2/10 to Kuba because of that. Falls to 2.7 seconds behind the lead. So James now, I want to look at the final battle for the podium spot between Guillermo Prieto and Jim Paresis. If they keep their head cool like last round, Jim could indeed, or at least Guillermo as well, if they maintain their tyre grip, could pass Patrick DeWitt and then set their sights on Kuba Brzezinski in P1.
Yeah, and it's all about the patient game and seeing what all the other drivers do ahead of them. And whoa, that is a lot of lag. Wow. Okay. I got a little bit scared that some drivers had disconnected and we had a DDoS attack. Thank God for that. That wasn't the case, but we can continue racing. We're on lap 7. Brzezinski doing a nice job, and he's definitely picked up the pace. He did a 31.80 in the first sector and just a 28.8. I think he's saving the tyres compared to Patrick DeWitt, who's trying to bring down the time to Kuba Brzezinski, but definitely both drivers are doing a good job, and I think Patrick will still be pretty satisfied with P2 because that will be a really good job from the World Championship driver, and I'm sure Prieto will be delighted in P3 as well. So we're on the lap 8 out of 28, done 10 laps, we've got 20 laps to go, sorry, and it's been a pretty clean and pretty good race so far. And if anyone wants to come and join the Winter Series for the last round, which is at Turkey, at Istanbul, if you want to come and join us, then there is a link in the description of this live broadcast where you can go onto that link and it will take you to the sign up page of the Winter Series. So hopefully we can get a couple more people into the Winter Series and have a bigger grid than 18. And I'm sure there was quite a few people with personal commitments like Michi Hoyer, who I was talking to before the race, and he's currently on a train, so shout out to Michi there. But on lap 8, and Kuba Brzezinski coming around the final corner to start yet another lap.
Well, he will begin another lap as I... Whoa. Alright, all good. I just had a big black screen there. All good. But now Jim, or Guillermo Prieto, I want to talk about his first round, James, at the Magna course here in the Winter Series, as Jim Paresis breaks immensely late behind him. But Guillermo gets the exit. When we talk about Guillermo Prieto's first round, he was in 3rd place. He lost 4 positions in a lap, and then he DNF'd from the race. So hopefully that doesn't happen this afternoon. Hopefully he keeps his head cool. But this is going to be very tough for him because Jim Paresis doesn't want to keep his head cool. He wants to give that heat straight to Guillermo in front. He wants that final podium spot. Jim finished 3rd last round at Spain, hoping to do it again here in round 3 of the Winter Series. We talk about round 4, as you said. Sign up on the FSR forums at Race Department if you want to join. 1 round remaining after this. Now, Jim Paresis still cannot get past Guillermo Prieto. The train has sort of broken up a little bit. Sander Callis in P5 has dropped about 4 seconds behind. So, I mean, that train in the early laps is no more, as Blair Disley is in P8. Larry Ashbius and George Winter swap positions, so we've missed that in the meantime as well, James.
Yeah, and Larry, I'm not too sure, but he just hasn't found his pace, what he's shown previously while he was practicing, while I was on the server anyway. But perhaps he's having a little issue with his car or his steering wheel, but hopefully he can find his pace again. But on lap 10 now, and the train is definitely split up, as you said, but Jim Paresis trying to use the DRS, but I believe, no, in fact, I thought that Guillermo Prieto had DRS, but in fact he doesn't, because he is 1.6 seconds away from Patrick DeWitt. But Jim Paresis just needs to use his World Championship experience and his new wheel. But if anyone's interested, then he does a live Twitch feed. Does Jim Paresis of him driving, so it's really good to see World Championship drivers and how they drive. So if anyone's interested, go and have a look at that, but be sure to not leave us as well. But lap 10, not that much action going on at the moment, I think it's just more of a waiting game for the drivers here at the Hungary to see who makes a mistake and who cracks under the pressure from these experienced World Championship drivers.
So does Jim still Twitch stream? That's good. I'm going to start watching them now because it was very fun before. I was disappointed he didn't do them more. I'm going to check him out after the race. Check out his stream or watch now alongside us, of course. Do not ditch us. Now I want to play Fact or Fiction with you, James Sadler. Alari Alchpius, P7 at the moment. Fact or Fiction, Alari Alchpius drove for both Precision Motorsports and Twister Racing.
False. He drove for Twister and he drove for Net Racing. I don't think he's ever driven for Precision.
Well, believe it or not, I cannot. Well, I mean, I don't have the paperwork, but according to at least hearsay, it's a fact. He's driven for both Precision and Twister, believe it or not. And I'm being serious. He is a very strong driver, and that's why he's been on both those teams. He's a talent where he's very underrated, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, he's in P7 at the moment, but look at Jim Parisas in P4. You expect Jim Parisas to be leading this race due to his strength in the World Championship last year. The Winter Series, you can't look at it too aggressively. It's good to showcase your skills and racecraft. In terms of pace, it's a completely different car to a Formula 1 car, James. A lot more setup options. This car could suit some drivers with different driving styles, but some it may not suit. And a guy who likes an oversteery car, driving a fixed setup that's very understeery, will not perform well in the Winter Series.
Yeah, exactly. You're completely right. And definitely the fixed setup does hinder some drivers, but it keeps a level playing field. And like you said, you can't really take a look at the times. You've got to take them with a pinch of salt, really. And I'm sure everyone will see their true pace for 2015, and I'm sure it'll be an exciting season of racing in FSR for 2015. But as we are on lap 12, and it's been pretty good so far. And Philip Koenig has jumped Will Barnes into P12. But so far, there's not too much action going on, as we said.
Yeah, not too much, but we look at battles that could evolve throughout the race. Brzezinski is maintaining that 3-second gap to Patrick. That's crazy how he's doing that, controlling the pace of the lead. Patrick, though, on a race of his own now, no pressure from behind, no pressure in front. He's 2 seconds in front of Guillermo Prieto, who's immensely under heaps of pressure, as we just said, from Jim Parisas behind him P4. He's only half a second behind Guillermo. Then Sander Callis, haven't talked about him much. Quite underrated him this afternoon, James. He's a Pro Series driver, and you were amazed by him in qualifying how highly he was able to do that. Now he's impressed a lot for. I'm not sure which team he's driving for this season, James. He was driving for. It was a very unknown team in the Pro Series for 2014, but nonetheless, he's performing well here as George Winter in P6 is also under pressure from Alari Alchpius, so we wait for more battles to form throughout the field. So the gap now for the lead is still 2.9 seconds from Kubo to Patrick.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Sander Callis is a really good driver, and I'm not too sure what team he did drive for in 2014. Maybe people in the chat on this live stream can help us out. But thank you to all the people watching this broadcast. It's definitely nice to see quite so many viewers on this live stream, and nice to see so many people interested in this Winter Series. And although it's not been the most exciting race so far, it's definitely been interesting to see who's got some good pace. And Will Barnes just went off the track, but he's got out the way, so good from him. But not too much action going on at the moment.
Oh, so Will Barnes is going to feed out in front of these two drivers battling, Alari Alchpius and George Winter. Will Barnes does not the most sensible thing, but we'll go back to the battle. George Winter and Alari Alchpius almost collide. Alari squeezes him, defends very late. Blair Disley is also fed into this battle. 3 drivers battling here for P6 as Alari Alchpius went around the outside of George Winter at turn 1. Now George Winter wants to have none of that as Blair Disley almost loses the car on the exit. He heads up the inside of George Winter. No, plays it smart as George breaks late under pressure from Blair. Blair showing his World Championship experience as usual. Tries to break around the outside of turn 13. Cannot do that. Goes for the undercut on George Winter. George parks it on the apex nicely, and that's just allowed Alari HBS in front to break away from these two. So the three-way battle now become a two-way battle for P7 and 8 between George Winter and Blair Disley. Blair, DRS is switched on the front straight. He'll have two zones after this turn as well. Will be the second zone. Cannot pass George. Brakes very late. Downhill braking zone. Goes for the exit. Gets very loose though, and I think George will maintain this position so far. Blair's too far behind, but what an immense battle. And Will Barnes, now DNF from the race, almost got into the way, but I think in the end he drove across the gravel just to make sure he didn't interrupt that battle too much.
I think the damage which he sustained from David O'Reilly's incident, I think that has really hindered his speed. So unlucky for Will Barnes, but Philip Koenig in P12, he's been having a quiet race, although he's at the back of the grid. He's been doing a pretty good job, it has to be said. He's avoided incidents and he's just driving quietly. So perhaps, hopefully he can get into FSR in the Pro Series for 2015. It'd be nice to see some new drivers coming from different leagues or just starting out in sim racing in rFactor. It'd be nice to see some new drivers in FSR. But at the moment, Blair Disley still right on the back of George Winter, and he's trying to use his World Championship knowledge and try and get past the avid chronic racing driver. So now he's going to try and get the best exit he can, and Winter, he nearly went into the wall. He did an exact carbon copy of what Sebastian Vettel did and just kept out of the wall. I can't remember what year.
Well, we're back on. Sorry for the technical difficulties, and we were talking about the weather here at the Hungary Ring, how it's completely become dark now, James. Amazing to see the dynamic temperatures in rFactor 2. I don't think there will be any rain this afternoon, but we certainly will see cloud cover coming as the battle, though, will continue on between Alari Archpius, Blair Disley and George Winter. Still continuing. The gap is about 2 seconds between those three drivers.
Yeah, indeed, and the weather, I doubt we're going to see weather in rFactor 2 because I just don't, it's just the aquaplaning gets to a point where there's rainfall, or there's too much rainfall on the track, and then the car just doesn't, it's just really, really slippery. So hopefully eyesight can improve that, because it really would be nice to see some dynamic weather in FSR. And let's have a look at Blair Disley. He's right on the back of Alari Alcabus, and whether the dirty air is going to affect him during the middle sector. He goes through turn 3 now, heading up to turn 4. Let's just see what Blair Disley can do in this race, and we're on lap 16, and well, it will be interesting to see what Blair can do. Can he take on the Pro Series driver of Alari Alcapus? Alari definitely showing some great pace, but Blair gets a really good exit out of turn 6 and 7, but he can't use that great exit throughout turn 8 and 9 because there's no space for overtaking. But Alari's doing a good job defending against the experienced World Championship Australian driver.
Yeah, and Blair, this is why teams like experienced drivers. We look at Rubens Barrichello in 2011, I think it was, where Williams only scored 1 point throughout the year with Maldonado and Senna. Rubens Barrichello came out and criticised the team, saying this is what happens when you don't sign a World Championship driver, an experienced Formula 1 driver to help the team. You struggle to score points, And now Blair Disley, experienced enough, has DRS the battle for P6. Alari goes defensive up the inside. Blair will brake late up the outside. And wow, lots of hard braking from Blair there. Trying to get the traction, bit of contact between the two, but they maintain the car in a straight line. Alari though, oh, he makes contact with Blair, almost sends him into a spin. And now Blair and Alari, once again, keep the car on track, and that allows George Winter into this battle for the three-way P6 battle, or the battle for P6 at the moment. Alari, though, is falling behind. He's completely unsettled from that battle with Blair. I'm not sure if there was a bit of aero loose or some sort of some netcode issues there between Blair and Alari, but George, though, does not want to finish at all. He kept his mind on. We know that no matter how fast the driver is, as long as you can put the pressure on, he's going to fall into your clutches soon enough. And that's what we've seen between these three drivers. Amazing racecraft from them both. Bit of contact, but luckily enough, they've kept it on the track.
Yeah, indeed. It was good racing from both Alari and Blair. And now I think Blair has just got a little bit more pace than both Alcapus and Winter. But Winter, he's looking pretty good. He's managed to gain back up to Alari and Blair since both of them were battling. But now, can George Winter overtake Alari Alcapus? He's going to get DRS, and again, and he's just done pretty much a repeat of what he did before. And I think he's just running too high a front wing or too high steering lock, and the rear end of that car is really not settled at all. And unfortunate for George Winter, he's now going to have to go and catch up all again to Alari Alcapus. And we're on lap 18, 10 laps to go. It's been a pretty good race. Not much action, but it's definitely been entertaining. Hopefully all the people that are watching have enjoyed it as much as me and Johnny have enjoyed commentating on it for you today.
Certainly, as Kuba Brzezinski comes towards the end of the second sector, as we have 10 laps remaining, as James Sadler just mentioned, 3.1 seconds away from Patrick de Wit. Kuba is for the lead. Patrick has extended that gap from Guillermo Prieto to 4 seconds now, as he is also being hounded by Jim Parisas behind, the other Greek freak racing this afternoon. One of them has retired, and Jim is currently still in P4 at the moment. So they are 7.5 seconds away from the lead. Sander Callis, 10 seconds behind that group. He's currently in P5. Disley, nice race from him. He was our man, we said, James, in the warm-up, who will make their way through the field this afternoon, and will correct. Indeed, he's slowly learnt the car a lot more, gained experience. Hopefully he races in the final round with more pace and more experience with this car, because he certainly could prove to be at least a force to be reckoned with. As Alari Alcapus is 2 seconds behind Blair. In P7, George Winter 2 seconds behind him. And I think Kuba Brzezinski, this is not good. He's dropped behind Patrick de Wit. This is amazing. Kuba Brzezinski currently in P2. I think he's a mistake or had a spin. We'll have a look at that nonetheless, James. It was at turn 1. I think it's the same issue from one of the previous rounds. He must have just been alt-tapped to the desktop, because he's gone straight forward into turn 1. Braked, allowed Patrick into P1, and now Kuba is currently has to fight his lead, or fight his way back for the lead. Hopefully he has the tyre wear, James.
Yeah, well, it's a good job Kuba's saved his tyres throughout the course of this race, and he's pushing so hard. He just tapped the curve going into the final corner of sector 2. Now going through turn 12. Good exit on the exit, turn 12, 13. But now, has Kuba got enough grip in them tyres? That's the question. What we want to find out. Can he take Patrick de Wit, or is Patrick de Wit literally going to park the bus and just try and take victory here? And Kuba goes off the track. He's pushing so hard. He's shown he definitely wants this victory. He's going to look down to the inside. Patrick de Wit cuts him off. Oh, what is going on? Wow, okay. Big
contact for the lead there. I mean, that is big. Well, two guys really battling for the lead here. I don't think, well, this race is certainly far from being over. Of course, 8 laps remaining, so these guys are not going to give up, as Guillermo Prieto as well, 3.1 seconds away from the lead. Those guys, as well as Jim Parisas, are also in this battle for P1 now. I think 4 guys who could potentially win this race. If Patrick and Kuba make more contact like that, Kuba could have some big damage to the front end of that car, as well as Patrick to the rear. This race, out of nowhere, has taken a big turn for the worse for drivers, and those drivers, especially Kuba Brzezinski, 2.7 seconds now, the gap between Prieto and Patrick for the lead.
Yeah, indeed, and hopefully there isn't any contact between both these drivers, but definitely Kuba's managed to catch up again. It is literally a carbon copy of Miranda and Huis back at 2012, as I said earlier in the broadcast. And now, can Kuba Brzezinski, he may have some damage, but so might De Vit, especially, but I think it'll affect a bit more, because it would have damaged his rear wing, so he won't have as good traction on the exit. And De Vit, as I say that, gets really wild on the exit. Now, Kuba Brzezinski, he's going to look to the right, he's going to try and dive bomb, but now De Vit switched to the right, and then De Vit gets squirrely on the exit of turn 1. I think De Vit is suffering from damage from that incident. Now Kuba, he's going to go around the outside. Can he do it? Let's have a look. He's going through turn 3. Is there going to be enough room? No, there isn't. Oh dear, wow. Has Prieto just stolen this? That's the question we need to be asking. Now, as we're talking about these two, they need to be patient. Look at where Prieto and Parisas are. Kuba, it's all gone wrong for Kuba. How unfortunate for the Polish driver. I think this has been a different turn of events from what we were expecting. The race, there wasn't much action, and now it's all just come at the end.
Wow, so big battle between those drivers there. Kuba, though, I don't think it's over for him either. These 4 drivers, any one of them could win the race at the moment, and that's Patrick De Vit in P1, Guillermo Prieto 1.4 seconds away in P2, Jim Parisas and Kuba Brzezinski a second behind each other as well. 4-way battle for the lead, 7 laps remaining. Patrick De Vit immense and big defending, and I think that's going to be on the mind of Guillermo Prieto, the aggressiveness from Patrick De Vit to maintain that lead. And I'm not sure if there'll be any stewards looking at those incidents after the race, as David O'Reilly, a lap car ahead, hopefully he gets out of the way and he's aware that these 4 drivers are really going to be over aggressive. I sort of don't want them to at least put so much pressure on the lap car. This could play into the hands of some drivers and could play to the detriment of others, as Patrick De Vit still is 1.3 seconds, slowly losing the lead to Guillermo Prieto. Out of nowhere, James, now this brings up the element. Prieto's had a clean race as usual. Can he keep his head full? Can he maintain that grip that he's kept the whole race? He's under so much pressure from Jim Parisas from lap 1 to 22. Does that mean that Jim, with the fresher tyres so far, will win this race?
We'll have to see who makes a mistake, who cracks under pressure. Prieto's done a fantastic job. If De Vit makes a mistake and Prieto wins this race, what a story that will be for round 3. But fantastic stuff from all the drivers at the moment. Some questionable defending, but let's not gloss over that. Let's carry on watching this race. Let's see what happens. We've now got David O'Reilly ahead of Patrick De Vit. He gets out of the way. Good stuff from the English driver. And now Patrick De Vit is losing time to Guillermo Prieto. So, and we've actually got Philip Koenig has retired, unfortunate for him. So now, has Prieto got the tyre wear? Has he got the pace to go and take on Patrick De Vit?
Yeah, so unfortunately Philip Koenig becomes our 7th retirement of the race. We still have 11 drivers left, but for now we're going to concentrate on this battle for the lead, this battle for the win. And 4 drivers, 4 egos could, or indeed, battle with each other and collide, as our lovely Chris Young likes to say. Egos colliding could certainly happen here this afternoon, as Jim Parisas now, this is what I was talking, his tyres are so fresh. It just looks so super smooth compared to the other drivers. I want to watch his stream after the race and see how much he'd be sweating after this. I mean, the summer here in Australia, I'd be a boiling pot of kettle. I'd be steaming after this battle. I mean, it's just amazing to see the amount of aggression from some of these drivers. Still 5 laps remaining, James, but nothing so far between the 4. We're waiting for, or at least we're the first driver to pounce.
Yeah, indeed, it's anybody's race, really. It's open to everyone. Let's see who can take advantage. Patrick De Vit is still maintaining that 1.2 second gap. And definitely there's a lot of comments in the YouTube chat, everyone voicing their own opinion. But it's important that we are not biased, because, You know, we'll leave it
One.
till after the race, exactly. And so, you know, let's see who can take victory here. It's open 21, and we're gonna see, because now all three drivers, including Prieto. Oh no, in fact, Prieto doesn't have DRS. Jim Paresis does, and Cuba does, but obviously Jim Paresis isn't close enough, and Cuba's getting very aggressive. He's very unhappy, I'd imagine, in that car. We'll have to wait until after the race to see what happens and to see what Chris Cobb makes of it all. He's got some ace direction experience, so I'm sure he will give some insight on perhaps penalties, but I doubt there will be penalties in this Winter Series, as they all head up through turn 4, now into turn 5. Patrick leading the way. It's been pretty. And are we going to have a photo finish here?
Could certainly have a photo finish. Cooper looks up the inside of Patrick into 6 and 7, cannot make a passing maneuver stick. Too aggressive, James. I think he is frustrated, but this is where you separate the great from the excellent, and or the legends at least as well. The drivers who can keep their head cool through the tough times. And so far, Cooper's just utterly frustrated, you can with his driver style. I think that's just not going to help him at all make his way back to the lead. But to be honest, I'm on the edge of my seat at the moment. The battle for the lead between 4 drivers, 2.1 seconds separating the 4 of them. Each one of them will have DRS on each other except for Patrick DeWitt. He's in the lead, and once again with 3 laps remaining as Patrick crosses the line, Prieto has been ever so close. This is the closest he's been to Patrick DeWitt all race. Goes into the slipstream. We'll see how aggressive Patrick will be this time around. Guillermo Prieto brakes very late. Patrick defends up the inside. Expect to dive from Guillermo, but it does not happen, and Guillermo now on the throttle on the exit does not get as good of an exit as I thought. Jesus though playing the patient game, waiting for these two to at least collide or a battle to form, and he will pounce certainly. Half a second the gap between the lead, 1.8 seconds now between 4 drivers.
Yeah, indeed, it's all very close at the moment, and Prieto, in fact, Jim Paresis looking on the inside into turn 5, it's not going to happen. He's just got to be patient. Surely, if it finishes like this, there'll be a great end to the race. And DeWitt, he's now only 8 tenths ahead of Prieto. Can Prieto do something? His heart's probably racing in that car at the moment. Can he do anything? Let's have a look. He will have DRS now, and I think DeWitt, all the locking up and all the squirrely exits is now, and also the damage is started at DeWitt at the moment. He's now only 6 tenths away is Prieto. So now Prieto, he needs to get a good exit out of the final corner if he wants to have any chance to try and take victory off Patrick DeWitt. At the moment, he's now getting a good exit. DRS is now open, but I think he's just too far and the straight is just too short for Prieto to make a move.
Well, Guillermo Prieto cannot get too close to Patrick. Jim Paresis up the inside of Guillermo Prieto, cannot make a pass. Kuba Brzezinski now wants Jim Paresis' final podium position on the back of the gearbox there. Jim goes defensive, but Kuba has passed people around the outside here before, and he does it again. Maintains the grip, maintains the line. Same move he did on Patrick DeWitt. Cannot get his nose in front of Jim, and Jim maintains that final podium spot. Absolutely amazing here with 2 laps remaining of this 3rd round of the FSR Winter Series. Jim under a lots of pressure. I think he's sort of cracking a little bit now. Almost ran wide at turn 4 on the exit, but he still maintains the gap to the drivers in front. Everybody is affected by each other's dirty air. Very bad exit by Jim Paresis. Kuba cannot get past on the exit of turn 7 into 8. And now Patrick though, I think this has been a lot or a big of an easy job for him as they approach Martin Borg in a lap car. Well, they might get him on the front straight, and that could play to the advantage of Patrick DeWitt.
Yeah, indeed, and we'll have to see if DeWitt breaks under the pressure. He's now got a lap car ahead of him. He gets out of the way. I'm not too sure who that was, but now Prieto right on the back of Patrick DeWitt. Here we go, and now Prieto needs to get a good exit. DeWitt is running wide. He's pushing that car so much. He's on the final lap now, pretty much. Yes, he is. Last lap for Patrick DeWitt. Is there enough time for Guillermo Prieto to go and take victory here at Hungary, or is this Patrick DeWitt's race?
Oh, Kuba's one wide. Kuba's outside. He spun around. Kuba's outside of the battle for the win. He will not win this race unless these top three spin off and make contact. So it's between Patrick De Vitt, Guillermo Pietro, and Jim Paresis now. 8/10 gap between drivers.
Oh no!
A bit more contact in the back.
Involved. I think Kuba just started to reverse, and then Sander Callis had nowhere to go and just went straight into it. Blair Disley's up to 6th. There he is. I think he's lost his.
He's up to 5th now, Blair Disley.
Now it's all gone wrong for Cuba. What a fantastic race it was, and now Cuba is in 7th place, and I believe Cuba's rear wing has gone. Yes, it has, and now he's got no downforce at the rear. He's literally going to crawl to the finish. George Winter is now going to go and get 7th. Is David Cook in a move to go and take Q Brzezinski? I think he's just too far away at the moment. We'll have to keep an eye on the lead. Patrick De Vitt, he's pretty much got this one in the bag at the moment. He's going to break into turn 13, and then now into turn 14 he comes. Patrick De Vitt, we'll have to see after the race what happens, but at the moment Patrick De Vitt, he's took victory here at the Hungaroring. Fantastic job from him. Prieto, a solid job to finish in 2nd. Jim Paresis had nowhere to go and overtake Prieto, but Prieto did a fantastic job, as did Jim Paresis. Alari Alkbus, he's managed to go and get 4th place. Great job from him. Blair Disley, first time in the Winter Series for 2015, and he's got 5th. Sander Callis in 6th place. George Winter in 7th. Q Brzezinski crawling to the finish. Where is David Cook? I think he's finished, so I think Cuba, all he needs to do is cross the line, and then that is the race over. What a hectic finish that was. Wow. Okay. Wow. Indeed.
Well, indeed it was a hectic finish, as we'll have 11 drivers finishing the race. Absolutely amazing. Patrick De Vitt proving his worth once again. Bit of words to be spoken after the race, surely, between those drivers. Kuba Brzezinski, though, in P8, loses that championship lead for the moment to at least Patrick De Vitt for the moment as well, and we'll wait to update the standings for you on GPCOS very, very shortly throughout the week. Round 4 will be next week. That's going to be amazing. Blair Disley, though, wonderful race to be in the top 5, as well as Alari Altrius. Those two drivers taking advantage of the DNFs here this afternoon, and we want to round out those DNFs for you at the moment. Philip Koenig, Will Barnes, Pashla Sturgis, Timu Valkiavi, Goran Assad, Eugene Van Logenberg, and Norbert Lietner as well. Very, very intense race. Sander Callis is completely, utterly frustrated at the moment from Kuba Brzezinski, I think, reversing back onto the track. And I think Kuba, we know, was frustrated, James, but I mean, as good as a driver as he is, there's just no room for a driver in motor racing itself, simulation racing, whatever, to be reversing back onto the track.
I think Cuba was trying to reverse because he was stuck in the barriers and couldn't get out. I think that was his problem. He tried to reverse and hoped that there wouldn't be anyone there, but we'll have to review it after the race. But what an eventful race, and definitely drivers have benefited from it, and others have not, with Cuba, and especially Prieto has definitely benefited from being patient, and he's got 2nd place. So that is it for the Hungaroring. We're now going to go for round 4 in 2 weeks' time at Istanbul, which will, if it's anything like today, it will be a fantastic race. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that was broadcast. It would be really appreciated on the broadcast, and hopefully everyone enjoyed the broadcast today and the race. And me and Jonny have certainly enjoyed commentating on it for you today.
Certainly, I think, has that round changed? The last time I checked that 4th round, it said the 1st of March, and it's now the 8th of March. So excuse my, I'm not sure that changed anyways. But yes, that will be in 2 weeks' time indeed, and apologies for the hiccups on that. So that will be at Istanbul Park in Turkey. 53 laps to hit the drivers. The championship is not over. Big battles between all the drivers. Absolutely amazing final lap there, James. And at the moment we have, 11 finishers. Hopefully see more drivers in the final round. Well, I think that about says it all. We will, before we go, vote for driver of the day, James. And as usual, well, I will vote for mine after you, obviously, but I'm not sure who you thought is well deserved of that.
I guess it's really hard. I think you've got to give Prieto a lot of credit for today. You know, he's an A-Series driver, and he's definitely shown he can mix it with the World Championship drivers of the likes of De Witt, Parisis, and even Brzezinski. I don't know what yours is, Johnny, but interesting to find out.
Yeah, certainly, and well, my driver of the day goes to, well, everybody for finishing the race. Very good job from them. No, though. What a battle. And, well, I've lost my voice before the broadcast, and I'm pretty sure at the moment it's lost even more. So thanks, everybody, for bearing with that, as well as we will finally wrap up here this afternoon. Amazing race from everybody. We'll hope to see you in 2 weeks' time at Turkey and Istanbul here at FSR for the final round of the 2015 Winter Series. It's been a great delight. James Sadler alongside me, Jonny Simon, as well as Sam Jones on broadcast and cameras. Thanks once again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.